The flight attendant's voice cut through the hum of the first-class cabin like a blade. "She has drugs in her bag," she announced, pointing at the only black woman on the plane. She held up a small package, brandishing it like evidence in a courtroom. This passenger brought illegal substances onto this aircraft. The accusation was loud, deliberate, and every passenger's phone was out, recording the spectacle. The elegant black woman, Crystal Cole, sat composed, her face unreadable. But as airport security escorted her down the aisle, she leaned close to the smirking flight attendant, Megan Parker, and whispered, "You have no idea what you've just done." Those words sent a chill through Megan, though she didn't know why. She couldn't know she'd just framed a top CIA operative. Or that her career, her freedom, and her carefully curated life were about to unravel. 12 hours earlier, Crystal Cole was in her hotel room, preparing for a mission she'd trained for her entire career. At 38, she was the CIA's newly appointed head of the Covert Aviation Security Division, a role she'd earned through grit and unmatched skill. Born on Chicago's South Side, she'd shattered barriers of race, gender, and the old boys club of intelligence officers who never expected her to outrank them. Her success in Eastern Europe, saving thousands in a counter-terrorism op the public never heard about, had caught the eye of CIA Director Reynolds himself. Now, she was on a classified mission to uncover a drug smuggling ring using commercial flights. Her secure phone buzzed as she packed her carry-on. "The airline CEO knows your cover," Director Reynolds said. "To the crew, you're just another first-class passenger. Your mission, identify the smuggling operation we've tracked to this airline. It's classified at the highest level." Crystal nodded, her mind already shifting into gear. What made her exceptional wasn't just her sharp intellect or perfect record, it was her almost uncanny ability to notice what others missed. A child falling in the terminal, an outdated security badge on a worker, a whispered exchange between TSA agents. She logged each detail into a CIA app disguised as a social media platform. Her target today, observe the flight crew, specifically Megan Parker, a name flagged in her briefing. Crystal moved through the crowded terminal, her eyes scanning without breaking stride. She was already working, already hunting. Meanwhile, Megan Parker rushed through the employee entrance, late again. At 32, she projected success, designer watch, flawless manicure, hair highlights that cost a fortune. But beneath the polish, she was drowning in debt, bitter about being passed over for a promotion, and resentful of a world she felt had betrayed her. "First class isn't what it used to be," she muttered to her colleague Tyler, scanning the passenger manifest. "Letting just anyone with money up there." Tyler laughed nervously, uneasy with her tone. He'd heard her comments before, especially about passengers of color. Megan's resentment had turned dangerous 6 months ago. Desperate to maintain her facade, she'd accepted an offer from a first-class passenger, move packages through security using her crew credentials. The money was too good to refuse. Now, in the airport bathroom, she whispered into her phone, "I'll make the drop this trip. The package is secure. I'm not backing out. Do you know how much debt I'm in?" She opened her makeup bag, revealing a vacuum-sealed package hidden among her cosmetics, high-grade pharmaceuticals bound for the black market, worth thousands. As Megan joined her crew, her professional mask back in place, she had no idea she was about to cross paths with someone trained to see through her. Crystal settled into her first-class seat, her eyes missing nothing. She noted Megan's subtle shifts in demeanor, warm smiles for the white CEO, friendly banter with an elderly white couple, but a cold, clipped anything to drink, for Crystal, the ma'am conspicuously absent. "Sparkling water, please," Crystal replied, her voice neutral but her mind cataloging the slight. When Megan practically dropped the drink on her tray while carefully placing others, Crystal made a mental note. Discrimination often hid in these small moments, and she was here to connect it to something bigger. Megan felt Crystal's gaze, that steady focus unnerving her. "That black woman in 3A shouldn't be on this kind of flight," she whispered to Tyler during pre-takeoff checks. "She's even the only black here." Tyler brushed her off, but Megan's mind was racing. The package in her crew bag felt heavier with every minute. She needed to make the drop in the first-class bathroom, but Crystal's presence made her nervous. A plan began to form, a way to eliminate this perceived threat and reinforce the stereotypes Megan privately held. As the plane taxied for takeoff, Crystal worked silently, her tablet a cover for her observations. She pressed the call button. 1 minute passed, then 5. Megan walked by, helping others but ignoring Crystal's lit-up button. A white man in 2C pressed his button. Megan was there in seconds, all smiles. Scotch neat? Absolutely, sir. The contrast was stark. When Crystal finally caught Megan's eye, the flight attendant's tone was flat. Did you need something? No ma'am, no warmth. A blanket, please. It's cold, Crystal said. Limited blankets. I'll check, Megan replied, but 20 minutes later, no blanket came. Crystal noted it all, her calm masking her assessment. This wasn't just poor service, it was bias, and it might tie to the smuggling. Megan's anxiety grew. The drugs in her bag were a ticking bomb. She needed to act. During a quiet moment, she slipped into the first-class bathroom with her crew bag, emerging 2 minutes later, the bag lighter. Crystal saw it all, the shaky hands, the frequent bag checks, the hushed talk with Tyler that stopped when others approached. Then, a well-dressed man used the bathroom, his jacket pocket fuller when he returned. The drop was done, right under everyone's noses. Crystal's suspicions were confirmed. Megan wasn't just biased, she was smuggling. What Crystal didn't yet know was how far Megan would go to protect herself. In the galley, Megan's hands trembled as she reached into her personal locker, pulling out a second package, her own cut from the deal, worth thousands. Insurance policy, she whispered, slipping it into her apron pocket. She didn't know Crystal's type-in camera, CIA tech far beyond civilian knowledge, was recording every move. Megan waited until Crystal went to the bathroom, then approached her empty seat. Pretending to adjust the pillow, she slipped the package into Crystal's handbag. The trap was set. Crystal returned, sensing the shift in Megan's sudden helpfulness. Just making sure you're comfortable, Megan said with a fake smile. Crystal nodded, her instincts screaming. She checked her seat but saw nothing amiss yet. The camera had caught it all, the proof secure. Megan waited 20 minutes, then made her move. She called the captain. Sir, I think a passenger in first class has drugs. We need to check her bag. The captain, following protocol, told her to proceed with the air marshal. Megan approached Crystal's seat with another attendant and a plainclothes marshal, her voice loud for the cabin. I need to check your bag right now. Crystal looked up, calm. May I ask why? We've received information about illegal items, Megan said, passengers already recording. I don't consent to a search, Crystal replied, knowing her rights. This isn't a request, the marshal said. Air safety rules. Megan grabbed the bag, pulling out the package with mock shock. What is this? She asked, holding it up. Gasps rippled through the cabin, phones capturing every second. That's not mine, Crystal said firmly. I have no idea how it got there. Megan's tone dripped with accusation. It was in your handbag. Looks like illegal prescription drugs. Whispers grew, unbelievable. In first class, too. The marshal's face hardened. Ma'am, come with me to the back. Crystal stood, composed. I understand your rules, but someone else put that there. She looked at Megan, who feigned outrage. Are you accusing a crew member? That's ridiculous. The marshal cut in. We'll sort this out on the ground. As Crystal walked to the back, she leaned close to Megan and whispered, You have no idea what you've just done. Megan's smug smile flickered, but she brushed it off. She had no clue she'd just set her own downfall in motion. The plane landed at its scheduled stop, and the cabin buzzed with whispers as airport security boarded. Crystal Cole, still composed, was escorted off the aircraft, her head high despite the staring passengers and their recording phones. Can't believe they let people like that in first class, one muttered. Good thing they caught her, another added. Each comment stung, but Crystal had heard worse in her 15 years at the CIA. She knew the truth, and her hidden camera held the proof that would unravel Megan Parker's scheme. Back in the first-class cabin, Megan soaked up the praise. You nailed it, a colleague said, watching the video she'd recorded. This is going viral. Megan grinned, already editing the footage on her phone. She uploaded it to social media with the caption, "Flight attendant catches drug smuggler in first class. Watch what happens next to within hours." The video hit 100,000 views, comments flooding in, "Great job, why am I not surprised who the dealer was?" The racist undertones went unchecked, and Megan reveled in her role as the hero. She had no idea the storm she'd unleashed. In the airport's security office, Crystal sat calmly as officers flanked her. "I need to make a phone call," she said, her voice steady but commanding. The lead officer hesitated. "We'll process you first," then Crystal slid a black card across the desk, embossed with a government seal and a number. "Call this. Tell them you have Crystal Cole in custody." Her tone made the officer pause. He dialed, and as he listened to the voice on the other end, his posture stiffened. "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." The room's mood shifted instantly. Handcuffs came off with apologies. "Ma'am, we had no idea who you were. How can we help?" Crystal didn't blink. "I need a secure line to Langley, transportation, and all airport security footage from the last 3 hours." The officers scrambled to comply, their earlier suspicion replaced by deference. Crystal's call to CIA headquarters was brief. "I've got evidence of a smuggling operation," she told Director Reynolds. "And a flight attendant who planted drugs to frame me. I'm sending the footage now." Meanwhile, Megan was back on the plane, preparing for its next leg. Crew members crowded around her phone, replaying the video. "Did you see her face when I pulled out the drugs?" Megan laughed. "Priceless." Another attendant suggested, "Send this to corporate. Might get you that promotion." Megan's eyes lit up. "Already posted it online. It's going viral." The video's view count climbed to 500,000, and Megan basked in the attention, oblivious to the fact that her every move was now under scrutiny. At CIA headquarters, Crystal walked into a secure meeting room where Director Reynolds waited with 2 analysts. "I assume things didn't go as planned," he said, eyeing her. "Actually, they went better," Crystal replied, connecting her typing camera to a computer. The screen lit up with high-definition footage, Megan planting the drugs in Crystal's bag while she was in the bathroom, then staging the dramatic discovery. "Megan Parker didn't just profile me," Crystal said. "She's running drugs." The footage rolled on, showing Megan passing a package to Tyler in the galley, their hushed exchange barely audible but damning. "Likely prescription drugs or cocaine," Crystal noted. "Small, valuable, easy to hide." The analysts ran facial recognition on Tyler Jenkins, pulling his file, 5 years with the airline, no criminal record. "This isn't just one bad apple," Crystal said. "My initial research shows Parker's been involved in 7 incidents with passengers of color in the past year. Each time, they were detained, humiliated, but never charged." "It's a pattern." Reynolds leaned forward. "Using racism to cover smuggling. Clever." Crystal nodded. "And effective. They target passengers who are less likely to be believed if they complain." An analyst interrupted, "The airline CEO's been trying to reach you, Agent Cole. Wants to apologize personally." Crystal's eyes narrowed. "Good. That's our in. We can work with the airline without tipping off Parker or her accomplices." "How big is this operation?" Reynolds asked. "Is it just Parker and Jenkins, or a larger ring?" Crystal's jaw tightened. "That's what we'll find out. But we need to move fast before they realize they framed a federal agent." Reynolds studied the footage again. "How do you want to proceed?" A faint smile crossed Crystal's face. "I think it's time Parker meets her new boss." Across town, Greatland Airways headquarters was in chaos. The viral video had hit 5 million views, and news outlets were picking it up. "This is a PR disaster," the chief communications officer said, scrolling through social media. "We're being called racists, enablers, you name it." CEO Richard Hamilton paced the boardroom. "What do we know about the incident?" The head of customer experience read from a report, "A first-class passenger, Crystal Cole, was accused of carrying illegal substances. The air marshal was called, and local authorities took over at the stopover. "Have we reached out to her?" Hamilton asked. Silence. The head of security spoke up. "We've tried, but we're hitting walls. Her contact info leads to government clearance blocks. When we called her number, we got transferred to what sounded like a federal agency. They said she'd contact us." Hamilton stopped pacing. "A federal agency?" The security head nodded. "It gets worse. I reviewed the unedited security footage. It shows our flight attendant, Megan Parker, planting the drugs." Gasps filled the room. "Show me," Hamilton demanded. The footage played, clear as day, Megan slipping the package into Crystal's bag. "My God," Hamilton whispered. "And this person works for us?" His private line rang. He answered, his face paling as he listened. That was the TSA director, he told the stunned executives. "The passenger we detained is Crystal Cole, a senior CIA operative conducting a security assessment of our airline. This is now a federal investigation into a drug smuggling ring involving our crew." The head of legal spoke first. "What do they want from us?" Hamilton's voice was grim. "Agent Cole is coming here tomorrow to brief us. We're to issue a standard "we're investigating" statement and not alert Parker or any other crew. They're suspects." The PR head groaned, checking her phone. "Parker's scheduled for a morning show interview tomorrow. She's being called a hero." Hamilton's eyes hardened. "Not for long. Schedule a company-wide crew meeting tomorrow afternoon. Tell them we're recognizing Parker's actions. Let's make sure she's there." The next morning, Megan strutted into the crew lounge, feeling untouchable. "There's the hero of Flight 237, a colleague called." Flight attendants applauded, one asked for a selfie. Megan soaked it up, her phone buzzing with notifications. The video had hit 10 million views overnight. "The morning news wants to interview me," she told Tyler, who handed her a coffee. "Live from the terminal at 11. Another attendant rushed over. "Company email just came in. The CEO wants to meet the whole crew this afternoon to recognize you for outstanding service." Megan's heart raced. A promotion, maybe even management. In the bathroom, she rehearsed her speech in the mirror. "I was just doing my job," she practiced, perfecting a humble smile. "Passenger safety is my priority." Her phone buzzed, a text from her drug contact, * saw the video. "Not smart drawing attention. Meeting cancelled, * Megan frowned. They were overreacting. This fame was the perfect cover. Who'd suspect her now?" She texted back, * relax. "This is good for us, *. What Megan didn't know was that Tyler was being tailed by federal agents. Her supplier's phone was tapped. And the meeting she was so eager for wasn't a celebration, it was a trap set by the woman she tried to destroy. As Megan applied another coat of lipstick, Crystal Cole was already at Greatland Airways headquarters, ready to turn Megan's moment of glory into her undoing. The conference room at Greatland Airways headquarters buzzed with anticipation. Flight crews from across the airline's network filled the seats, expecting a celebration. Megan Parker sat in the front row, her uniform pristine, her smile practiced. She was ready for her moment, promotion, recognition, the respect she'd always craved. Beside her, Tyler Jenkins fidgeted, his eyes darting to the security guards at the doors. "Why are they here?" he whispered. Megan brushed him off. "Probably for the CEO. Stop panicking." She didn't notice the guards' alert stances, the kind federal agents carry. At 2 p.m., the side door opened. CEO Richard Hamilton entered, his face grim, followed by his executive team. The room quieted. "Thank you for coming on short notice," Hamilton began, his voice flat. "As many of you know, an incident on Flight 237 yesterday gained significant attention online and in the news. A passenger was accused of carrying illegal drugs and removed from the aircraft." Megan nodded, her chest swelling with pride. This was it. Hamilton's tone sharpened. What you don't know is that this incident exposed a serious security breach within our airline. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Megan's smile faltered. Today, I'm introducing someone who will lead a joint task force with federal authorities to investigate criminal activity among our staff. Megan's stomach dropped. This wasn't the script she'd imagined. Please welcome Special Agent Crystal Cole, our new head of aviation security and integrity, Hamilton said. The side door opened, and Crystal stepped in. Gone was the casual traveler Megan had humiliated. In her place stood a woman in a tailored suit, CIA credentials around her neck, radiating authority. Megan's face drained of color. Tyler shifted, eyeing the exits, but a security officer appeared beside their row. Crystal's gaze met Megan's briefly, a silent warning, "I told you." "Thank you, Mr. Hamilton," Crystal said, her voice steady. "I'm Special Agent Crystal Cole of the CIA's Counterdrugs Division." Whispers erupted. "Yesterday, during an undercover security assessment on Flight 237, I was falsely accused of drug possession." She nodded to a technician, and a screen lit up with footage from her type-in camera. The room watched in stunned silence as Megan retrieved a package from her bag, planted it in Crystal's handbag, and staged the dramatic discovery. Gasps filled the air. The footage continued, Megan passing a package to Tyler in the galley, their whispered exchange about the drop. "What you're seeing isn't just racial profiling and false accusation," Crystal said. "It's evidence of a drug trafficking operation using commercial aviation, targeting passengers of color to deflect suspicion." Megan's hands trembled. Tyler stood abruptly. "She made me do it," he blurted. "Megan said we'd never get caught." "Shut up, Tyler." Megan hissed, grabbing his arm. Two federal agents approached. "Miss Parker, Mr. Jenkins, come with us," one said. As they were led away, Crystal continued. The screen showed more footage, Megan's pattern of targeting passengers of color, her network of accomplices, their system for moving drugs. The room was silent, some attendants covering their mouths in shock, others staring at Megan in disbelief. Megan's composure shattered. "This is ridiculous," she shouted, pulling away from the agents. "You can't believe her just because she has a badge. Everyone saw the video, she had drugs." Crystal remained calm. "Drugs you planted, Miss Parker, as the footage shows." Megan's voice rose, shrill. "That video could be faked. You people always stick together, don't you?" The racial jab landed like a slap. Employees recoiled, and the room's mood shifted. Crystal stepped forward, stopping a few feet from Megan. "Miss Parker, I've served this country for 15 years in ways you can't imagine. I've faced discrimination in places far more dangerous than a first-class cabin. But I've rarely seen someone use racism so blatantly to cover criminal activity." Megan's eyes darted, searching for support. She found none. "You targeted passengers of color, believing they'd be less likely to be believed," Crystal continued. "You chose me because you saw a black woman in first class and assumed I didn't belong." "That's not true." Megan protested, her voice weak. "It's not about race. I'd report anyone suspicious." A black flight attendant in her mid-40s stood up. "That's a lie, Megan. You've made comments about passengers of color for years. You've questioned their tickets, seated them away from white passengers. We all heard you. We just didn't speak up." Heads nodded around the room, and Megan's defiance crumbled. Tyler, desperate, turned on her. She contacted the suppliers. 6 months ago, she said we could make easy money because security never checks crew bags. It was her idea. Megan lunged at him. "You liar." Agents restrained her. "You're facing charges for drug trafficking, evidence tampering, false reports, and civil rights violations," an agent said. "Stop talking until you have a lawyer." As Megan was let out, she locked eyes with Crystal. "You think you've won," she spat. "People will believe my video. They'll believe what they want about people like you." Crystal's expression mixed pity and resolve. "That's why people like me keep showing up in places you think we don't belong. The truth always comes out, Miss Parker. Megan's face crumpled as the reality hit, her viral fame, her dreamed of promotion, all gone, replaced by federal charges and public disgrace. Hamilton returned to the podium. What we've seen is disturbing, but it's an opportunity for change in our airline and industry. The meeting, meant to celebrate Megan, had become a reckoning. Crystal looked out at the stunned employees, knowing justice wasn't just about catching criminals, it was about dismantling the systems that let them thrive. Outside, news vans gathered. Megan's video, now at 15 million views, was being dissected alongside Crystal's footage, exposing not just a smuggling ring but a deeper issue of bias. Social media exploded with reactions, some praising Crystal, others clinging to Megan's narrative. The story was no longer about one flight, it was about a society forced to confront its assumptions. Back at headquarters, Hamilton met privately with Crystal. "Agent Cole, I can't apologize enough," he said. "We're cooperating fully with your investigation. What do you need?" Crystal's voice was firm. "Access to employee records, flight manifests, and security footage from the past year. This isn't just Parker and Jenkins. We need to know how far this goes." Hamilton nodded. "You have it. And we're implementing anti-bias training, effective immediately." Crystal's phone buzzed, a message from an analyst, *3 more crew members flagged at 2 other airlines. Same MO, targeting passengers of color, *. The operation was bigger than she'd thought. She looked at Hamilton. This meeting was the start. Now we go deeper. And we don't stop until every link in this chain is broken. That evening, in a federal holding cell, Megan sat in an orange jumpsuit, the weight of her actions sinking in. Her lawyer had been blunt: with the video evidence, witness testimonies, and Tyler's cooperation, she faced at least 15 years. The designer clothes, the fake smile, the superiority gone. Her viral moment had become her downfall. Meanwhile, Crystal prepared for her next move. She knew one bust, however dramatic, wouldn't erase centuries of bias. But it had cracked open a door, forcing people to listen. In her office, she reviewed new footage, her mind already mapping the wider network. The fight wasn't over, it was just beginning. The fallout from Flight 237 spread like wildfire. Megan Parker's viral video, once hailed as a triumph of vigilance, was now a case study in racial profiling and criminal conspiracy. News outlets replayed Crystal Cole's footage alongside Megan's, exposing the truth to millions. Social media split, some cheered Crystal's takedown, others doubled down on Megan's narrative, their comments laced with the same biases she'd exploited. At Greatland Airways, the boardroom was a war room, executives grappling with a PR crisis and a federal investigation. Crystal Cole, now a public name, was at the center of it all, her mission expanding far beyond one flight. In a press conference 3 days after the arrests, CEO Richard Hamilton faced a barrage of cameras. "What happened on Flight 237 was a failure of our security and our culture," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "We're cooperating fully with the CIA and implementing immediate reforms." Behind him stood Crystal, her presence a silent signal of the airline's commitment. Questions flew: how long was this smuggling ring operating? Why didn't you catch the bias sooner? Hamilton didn't dodge. "We failed. But with Agent Cole's guidance, we're rebuilding trust." Backstage, Crystal met with Hamilton and his team. "We've uncovered 3 more crew members at 2 other airlines," she said, handing over a dossier. "Same method, plant drugs, frame passengers of color, deflect suspicion. This is a network, not a lone operation." Hamilton's face tightened. "What do you need from us?" Crystal's answer was direct. "Full access to your crew's travel logs, communications, and financials. We're tracing the money. And I need your anti-bias training to be mandatory, not optional." Hamilton nodded. "It's already in motion. We've also created a passenger advocacy office to handle discrimination complaints." Crystal's eyes softened slightly. "Good. This isn't just about catching criminals, it's about changing how your people think." As she spoke, her phone buzzed with an update from her team: *arrests made at Sky High Airlines. 2 flight attendants, 1 supplier. Interrogations underway, the net was tightening. Across town, Yasmin Collins, a black flight attendant with 12 years at Greatland, sat in Crystal's temporary office at the airline's headquarters. "I wanted to thank you," Yasmin said, her voice quiet but firm. "What happened to you? It's happened to passengers before." They'd complain, but no one believed them. Crystal leaned forward. "Did it happen to you?" Yasmin nodded. "Not the drug framing, but the assumptions, the different treatment. Megan's comments about certain passengers, I heard them for years. I reported it once, 3 years ago. Nothing happened. They said it was my word against hers." Crystal's jaw tightened. That's why the footage mattered. No one could deny it. Yasmin hesitated, then said, "It gave us a voice." Crystal saw an opportunity. "Would you lead the new training program? We need someone who's lived this, who can speak to it." Yasmin's eyes widened. "Me? I'm just a flight attendant." Crystal shook her head. "There's no just about it. You're exactly who needs to be heard." Yasmin paused, then nodded. "I'm in." Meanwhile, in a federal holding facility, Megan Parker sat alone, the orange jumpsuit a stark contrast to her former polish. Her lawyer's words echoed, *15 years minimum. The evidence is airtight. Tyler had flipped, spilling details about their suppliers, drop points, and Megan's role as the mastermind. The civil rights violations, targeting passengers of color, added years to her sentence. Megan stared at the wall, the weight of her choices crushing her. No more designer watches, no more viral fame. Just consequences. The investigation accelerated. Crystal's team, working with the FBI and TSA, uncovered a network spanning 3 airlines, 5 crew members, and a black market supplier ring. The method was consistent: smuggle high-value drugs in crew bags, use racial bias to frame passengers if suspicion arose. The operation had run for 2 years, undetected, until Megan targeted Crystal. Interrogations revealed a chilling detail: Megan had bragged about teaching people their place while framing passengers, her racism not just a cover but a motivator. At Greatland's training center, Yasmin led her first anti-bias session. 50 crew members sat before her, some skeptical, others shaken by the Flight 237 fallout. "This isn't about pointing fingers," Yasmin began. "It's about seeing what we've ignored. I heard Megan's comments for years about black passengers, Hispanic passengers, anyone who didn't belong in first class. I stayed quiet. That stops now." She showed Crystal's footage, pausing at Megan's smug smile as she planted the drugs. "This is what bias looks like when it's weaponized. And it's on all of us to call it out." A white attendant raised his hand. "What if we're scared of being wrong?" Yasmin's answer was firm. "Better to be wrong and speak up than stay silent and let this happen again." By the session's end, even the skeptics were nodding. Yasmin felt a shift, a small but real change. She texted Crystal, *first session done. They're listening, Crystal replied, *keep pushing. You're making a difference, On the ground, Crystal's investigation dug deeper. Financial records showed suspicious deposits in Megan's accounts, linked to a supplier in Miami. Wiretaps caught another crew member discussing a drop on an international flight. Crystal briefed Director Reynolds at Langley. "This goes beyond airlines," she said. "The suppliers are tied to a larger cartel. We're close to dismantling their aviation pipeline." Reynolds nodded. "You've got full resources. Shut it down." Back at Greatland, a young black man boarded Flight 237, settling into first class. Yasmin, now senior cabin crew, greeted him warmly. "Welcome aboard, sir. Anything I can get you before takeoff?" He smiled, surprised by the genuine courtesy. It was a small moment, but it carried the weight of change, a ripple from Crystal's fight. Passengers noticed, too. Complaints about discriminatory treatment dropped, and the new advocacy office fielded reports with real action, not dismissal. In a federal courtroom, Megan's trial loomed. Prosecutors built a case not just on smuggling but on civil rights violations, using Crystal's footage and passenger testimonies from past incidents. One woman, a black professor detained 2 years earlier after Megan accused her of suspicious behavior, spoke out. "I was humiliated, searched, and released with no charges. No one believed me. Agent Cole's evidence proved I wasn't alone." The story trended online, hashtags like #JusticeForFlight 237 amplifying the truth. Crystal, back at Langley, received a letter from a flight attendant at another airline. "Your case made me notice how we treat passengers differently. I'm speaking up now. Thank you." She added it to a growing file, each letter a reminder that her work reached beyond arrests. One case couldn't erase bias, but it had forced a reckoning. As she prepared for a sting operation targeting the cartel's aviation hub, Crystal knew the real victory wasn't just catching Megan, it was creating a system where doing right was easier than doing wrong. That night, Yasmin boarded a red-eye flight, her new role giving her purpose. A white colleague whispered, "I saw what you said in training. I'm checking myself now, how I talk, how I act." Yasmin nodded. That's how it starts. Across the country, Crystal reviewed surveillance footage, her focus unbreakable. The cartel was next, but the bigger fight against the biases that let Megan thrive was already shifting the ground beneath her. 6 months after the Flight 237 incident, Crystal Cole stood at the front of a training room at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Before her sat 30 new air marshals and flight crew members from multiple airlines, part of a joint security program. "What you're about to see is now a textbook case in how bias can be weaponized," Crystal said, clicking to start the video. The footage of Megan Parker planting drugs in her bag played, the room silent. "The passenger targeted was me," she revealed. "But consider how this ends if I'm not a federal agent with a hidden camera. Just an ordinary traveler." The trainees leaned forward, absorbing the weight of her words. "Every day, people face assumptions and unfair treatment based on how they look," Crystal continued. "Usually, there's no courtroom reveal, no justice, just another person learning the world sees them differently." She clicked to a photo of Megan in an orange jumpsuit, processed into federal prison. Last week, Megan Parker was sentenced to 18 years for drug trafficking, evidence tampering, and civil rights violations. Her co-conspirators got 5 to 15 years. Crystal walked through the case, the smuggling operations mechanics, how racial profiling served as both tool and cover, and how it spread across 3 airlines. "The lesson isn't just catching criminals," she said. "It's about the systems that let them thrive, the biases that make their schemes possible, the silence of those who see but don't speak." The room nodded, some jotting notes, others exchanging glances. A young marshal raised his hand. "How do we change that silence?" Crystal's answer was direct. "Call it out, even when it's uncomfortable. One voice can start a chain reaction." Across the country, Greatland Airways was transforming. Yasmin Collins, now a senior cabin crew member and lead trainer, greeted passengers with warmth that set a new tone. On Flight 237, a black woman in first class smiled as Yasmin offered her a drink. "You're making this flight feel different," the woman said. Yasmin nodded. "We're trying." The airline's new passenger advocacy office had processed dozens of complaints, leading to retraining and, in some cases, terminations. Anti-bias sessions, led by Yasmin, were mandatory, and crew members were starting to speak up. A white attendant admitted to her, "I used to ignore comments like Megan's. Now I challenge them." The investigation Crystal spearheaded had dismantled a cartel pipeline. After Megan and Tyler's arrests, her team traced the suppliers to a Miami-based ring moving pharmaceuticals and cocaine through commercial flights. A sting operation, coordinated with the FBI, netted 12 arrests, including a kingpin who'd bankrolled the airline scheme. Wiretaps and financial records exposed a network that had exploited lax crew security for years. The TSA overhauled its protocols, mandating random bag checks for employees. Airlines nationwide followed suit, spurred by Greatland's public reckoning. Megan's trial had been a media circus. Prosecutors used Crystal's footage, Tyler's testimony, and statements from past victims, passengers of color targeted by Megan over 2 years. A Hispanic businessman, detained after Megan claimed he looked suspicious, testified, "I lost a contract because of the delay and humiliation. No one listened until now." The judge's ruling was blunt. Megan's actions weren't just criminal, they were a betrayal of public trust. Her 18-year sentence sent a message, trending online with hashtag Justice for Flight 237. In a quiet moment at Langley, Crystal opened a letter from a flight attendant she'd never met. "Your case changed how I see my job. I called out a colleague for a racist remark last week. It wasn't easy, but I thought of you." Crystal added it to her file, now thick with similar notes. Each was a spark, proof her work reached beyond the courtroom. She smiled, then turned to her next assignment, a global trafficking case tied to the cartel's remnants. The fight never stopped, but moments like these fueled her. At Greatland's headquarters, CEO Richard Hamilton addressed a press conference. "We've implemented Agent Cole's recommendations, new security measures, ongoing training, and a culture of accountability. We're not perfect, but we're listening." Yasmin stood nearby, her promotion a symbol of change. A reporter asked, "What about the victims of past incidents?" Hamilton didn't hesitate. "We're reaching out, offering apologies and compensation. It's the least we can do." Social media continued to buzz. Crystal's story inspired memes, think pieces, and viral threads, but it also drew backlash from those clinging to Megan's narrative. "She still looks guilty," one comment read, racking up likes. Crystal ignored the noise, knowing real change happened in the trenches, on flights, in training rooms, in conversations like the one Yasmin had with a nervous white colleague. "I didn't realize I was part of the problem," he admitted. Yasmin's response was gentle but firm. "You're not now. That's what matters." In a federal prison, Megan sat in her cell, the reality of 18 years sinking in. Tyler's cooperation had lessened his sentence, but Megan's refusal to plead guilty, coupled with her courtroom outburst, "You're all against me," had sealed her fate. Stripped of her facade, she was just another inmate, her designer life a distant memory. She avoided the news, unable to face the headlines that now praised Crystal as a hero. Crystal's final report on Operation Flight Risk was submitted to the FBI's Civil Rights Division. Its closing words were later inscribed on their wall: "Justice is not just about punishing wrongdoing, it's about creating systems where doing right becomes the easiest choice." The case became required study for law enforcement, a reminder that bias wasn't just personal, it was a tool criminals could exploit. On a late flight, Yasmin noticed a black teenager in coach, nervous about flying alone. She knelt beside him. "First time?" He nodded. "Don't worry," she said. "You're in good hands." His smile mirrored the small victories rippling through the industry. At Langley, Crystal reviewed new intel, her focus unwavering. One case hadn't solved bias, but it had forced open a door. People were listening, crew members, passengers, even strangers whose letters filled her file. As Crystal prepared for her next mission, she thought of Megan's final words: "People will believe what they want, maybe some would. But others were changing, speaking up, rethinking, acting." That was the real triumph. Justice wasn't just handcuffs, it was a world where a black woman in first class wasn't a target but a passenger, where a flight attendant like Yasmin could lead, where silence gave way to voices. Crystal closed her laptop, ready for the next fight. The truth, as she'd told Megan, always came out.